Do well to like our channel, click on the subscribe button, and click on the bell notification to keep you updated in standard web development. You will use function. Okay, functions are like the building block for web development and everything we do. That is, what did I call it? Function. Now, what is a function? Function, you use function, number one, you use function in almost all programming languages. Okay, almost all programming languages you use function, and like I said, functions are the building block. Function is a reusable piece of code that performs a particular task. Okay, what did I call it? It is it Yes, it is a piece of code or block of code that perform what? A specific task. It's just like when you say you have a key starter to a car. It's just like you have a key starter for a car. Call that function start. You can call that function start engine. Actually, the right term is crank engine. You can call it function crank engine. That whenever you call that function, we call it invocation. Whenever you invoke it, you define a function and you call it. Whenever you call function crank engine, what happens? It starts the car. That is the work of that function. So whenever you want to start the car, all you just need to do is to do what? Is to call that function. Okay, so function is a block of code that perform a specific task. And of course, there are different kinds of functions. Functions are not as if they are not as if they have fixed types or fixed dimensions. It depends on the light in which you look at them. Okay, so in the course of what we are doing, we'll start getting to understand it more and more while we write our code. But firstly, know this, like I said, I will say it again, that a function is a piece of code or block of code that perform specific tasks. They are reusable. What did I say? They are reusable. You define them once, you declare them once, and whenever you need them, you can always call them to use. Okay, there's what we call a void function. A void function is a function that do not have a return. Don't worry, let's just explain them with code. Okay, now let's go on. This is our, let me just rush and give a structure. HTML structure, HTML. Let's still use our inline. We later will be I'll be attaching the script to a different file, but don't worry about that for now. We can still make use of this. Okay, now let's start from something. First of all, let's say we have a variable. Let's say name be equal to Rema. Okay, let name be equal to Rema, and we say console log name. Okay, when we save this, we come to our browser. I've already set it up here. Let's go to our dev tools. Then let's make it big so we see what is really happening here. Let's put it to console. Okay, what happens? It displays Rema to the console. Okay, all right. This is just direct declaring a variable, and we console log the variable. Now, let's say we don't want to put this thing on a plain something, we want to put it into a function. Okay, we want to put it into a function such that whenever you need this thing to be done, all you just need to do is to call the function. All you need to do is to what? Call the function. You declare a function and you call a function. Okay, all right. Now, a property of a function, some basic properties of functions are this. Number one, a function would have a name. Generally, a named function, it will have a name. Although not all functions have name, there are some functions that do not have name. You use them as callback function most times inside another function. They don't necessarily have a name, and such functions that do not have name, what do we call them? We call them anonymous function. Okay, but for now, let's start. To declare a function, what you do is that you start by the word function, by the keyword function. Let's say you say function. Okay, once you start with function, you put this you put the name, the function name. Function, what is the name? Let's say display. Let's say function display name. Huh? We put it this way with your open. This is how to declare a function. This is what? How to do what? How to declare a function. This is how to declare a function. Um, Function display name. This is a named function. The name of the function is what? Display name. The name of the function is what? Display name. Okay. In this function, I'll come back to parameters and argument, but let's just put everything in here. Now, we can have this outside, or let's just put everything inside, or let's put everything inside here. Let's put everything inside here. Function display name. Okay, and inside we say let name be wherever console log. So you've defined this function. You've defined this function already. This is the function definition. Okay, now what you do next, to use this function, you call the function. You do what? You call the function, but the right term you can use, you can say you invoke. You do what? You invoke the function. So by invoking the function, what do? You just call the function name. You use the function name display name and you add this thing to the front of it. That's all. Okay, we've defined the function here, we've declared the function, we've defined it. The next thing we do, we call what? We call the function, we invoke the function by just calling the function name. That's all. So we come, when you come, you refresh it, you have the same name in there. Okay, you have the same wherever in there. Now let's come and say now, let's take it a little bit step further. Let's take it a step further. Let's say you come now, you pass a parameter to this. You pass what? A parameter. You do what? You pass a parameter. A parameter can be anything. Let me call it param. It can be anything. It can be name, it can be wherever. That means in this case, we no longer need the name here. The reason you are passing a parameter in here now in this case is because you want to make this function dynamic. Okay, you don't want to be fixed. What we did now is that we had like a static function that that does a particular thing that is static, but now you want to like make the function a little bit dynamic. Okay, so you are taking this param, this name here, you can call it name. Let's call it name. Let's call it name. Okay, let's call it name. You are passing a name and you say whatever is being passed here, it should console log that name. What is inside here is parameter. What did I call it? It's parameter. Parameter are placeholder. Parameter are, there is parameter, there's argument, and these things are used interchangeably. Okay, but there is actually a structural difference to it. Parameter, it's the placeholder that you put inside your function. Why argument is the value, the exact value that you pass into it. In simple scenario, what we have now, this name here is a parameter. Okay, is a parameter, and we say once, what should the function do? The function should only console log this name. Okay, so if you are now invoking this function, what you do is that you call the function and you pass any name to it. Maybe you pass Debbie to it. So what happened in this case? That means you say when you refresh, since this Debbie here now, look at something. What do we have here? Debbie. Okay, what we have Debbie here. So what it means is that here the name is the parameter, right? But Debbie is what? Debbie is the argument. Debbie is the what? Is the argument. Debbie is the argument. That name inside the function is the parameter. Debbie is what? The argument. Okay? So That is that. Now let's say we are passing, you can pass so many parameters into a function. Let's say you have name, maybe you have another parameter. To pass more than one parameter, you use your comma. Okay, let's say you have name, you have age, then maybe you have class. Let's just, or let's say if you want it to be address, it's fine. Okay, so now what you can do is you can say console log. Let's change this to our string literal. You already know what is string literal. String literal is the way you can combine your string and even your parameters or your variables into it. Like, it's just like the most standard way of mixing your string and your variables, other than using the old method way that you use concatenation, which is the plus. Okay, but now I want you guys at least always use your string literal going forward, and to do that you use your tick. You have your double tick here. Okay, so let's say here you say this function display name, or now let's change this function. Let's change this function display name, because it's no longer displaying just a name. Your function name can be anything. Okay, your function name can be wherever. You can say function wherever, but generally the standard convention is that we try as much as possible to name our function to relate to what the function would do. You get, like when we use it to display name, we say function display name. Okay, now we can say function display profile. In this case, now I can just say maybe function display profile. It can be anything. Okay, function display profile. We want to see the name, age, and address. And using our string literal, we can say um, my name is. Once you are in your string literal, once you are using your string literal to pass the variable in, or in this case parameter, you bring it this way. My name is what? Name. Okay, comma. I am age. Yes, whatever age that has been passed, right? So we come again this way. I am age years old. I am age years old, and I live in where, or and my address, and my address is what? The address. Is this clear? Is this clear? So now, wherever, see, let me tell you something. I want you to understand something. Look at something. Listen carefully. The reason we use functions are this. We say functions are block of code that perform a specific task, and we say they are reusable. Anywhere you need profile for the user, for this particular person, okay, you don't need to be writing it again and again. You only call this function display profile. You only do what? You call the function display profile and you pass the argument to it. So if you need it in 10 places, you don't need to write the code to display profile in 10 places. You've written it once using this function. Anywhere you need it, you just call the function. That is the beauty and purpose of a function, okay? So now, to have this function anywhere, you just need to call the function name display profile, and this time around you pass the what? The argument, and use your single. You pass the argument. Let's say we are doing for, let's say, prince. Okay, prince. Age is what? Age is what? 10. Let's give it 10. Observe something. Um, I'm giving it a number. I did not wrap it around a quote, because you only is only necessary for string. For number, you don't need it. Okay, if you put it, it will work in this case, but even if you don't put it, it will still work. So now let's say address. My address is, let's say, Alagbaka Akure. Okay, so now once you save, let's come and refresh. So you see it. My name is what? My name is Prince. I am 10 years old. and my address is Alagbaka Akure. This is it on the console. Okay, this is it on the console here. You can all see it, right? All right. That using the named function, the standard and the regular way to do it. That is that. Now, what I want to do again is this. In this function, um let me cancel this. Right? I can delete it. Right? Or we just comment it. We can give it a long comment. Okay? We can give it a long comment. It's there, but it won't do anything. If you come and refresh, it doesn't apply, but it's there. Okay, that is comment. We've commented that stuff out there. All right, now let's come up here. Now let's say we have function. Take note of something. This function we've been doing here, all we've been doing so far, the avoid function. What did I call it? What did I call it? The avoid function. Why is it a void function? Please speak. Good, good. Please said they don't have what? Return keyword in them. Please take note of this. When you use a function, in this particular case, what we've done, the function only does something. It's not dependent on maybe another thing. Okay? It's not dependent on what? Another thing. Okay, before we even come back, before we come to void function and the function that is not void, let's look at something. You see the way we did this. Let me uncomment this thing. Let me control Z. Let me uncomment this thing. Yes. You see this function display name, right? Another standard way you can do this thing is this. This function, you can give it a name, right? You can say constant um, profile. You can say constant profile. It's equal to this. Okay? You can say what? Constant profile is equal to this. But in this case, you will remove this function name here. Exactly. Exactly. And as a matter of fact, what we are doing tonight, we'll get to what we call arrow function. And for modern web development, we use arrow function. Yes, we use arrow function for modern web development, but we'll get there in a jiffy. But take note of this. Once you say constant profile is equals to function, wherever. Now, if you want to call this function, if you call it this way, there will be an error. If you call it this way, there will be what? There will be an error. There will be an error. Can you see on cut reference? This display profile is not defined, and we could as well put this thing into our try catch. Yeah. All right. Or let's not even go into try catch for now. Let's make it simple. With the purpose of this thing is function. I don't want to add anything to function today. I don't want to introduce. I want it just to be purely function so that we really grab it. So in this case, since we've given this a name, this is a named function. So what we do now in this case, all you just need to do, you call the name of that function. You use profile. Okay, but we've assigned, remember, like I said, this is not equal to, it is assignment. It is what? Assignment. So we've assigned this function, this void function. It is a void function because it has no return keyword. I'll explain that in a jiffy as well. Okay, but now once you say constant profile, or you say constant profile is equal to function, so what you do is that once you come and refresh, is the same thing. This will work. My name is. This is at least more standard, a little bit more standard than the way we had it before. Okay. So now I'll come back to it again. This function now, function profile. Let's say um let's let's add a return to it. Let's add a return to it. But in this case, let me change something here. Let me change something here. Let's just say function constant. I can call this constant anything, anything. Let's say greater. Let's call it constant greater than 10. Constant greater than what? 10. Okay. Let it take just a parameter. Let it take one parameter. I'm trying to make it simpler. So going forward, I'll be using a named function. I'll declare something, I assign the function to it. Okay. Now let's say let it take number. Let's be back to our number. Let's be back to our number. That means we don't need this. Let's finish the definition. Let's finish declaring the function. Then we'll know what we want to do. Okay. Now let's come into this place. I'll say if okay, or rather, let me just return. Let me not make it complex. Let me just say return number. Return what? Number. Now, listen to something before I go on with this return. When you have a function that uses a return, that means it is not a void function, right? What it means is that that function must return a value. What did I say? It must return a value. And in most cases, you use your return, you add your return to your function if other most times if other part of the code is dependent on what that function returns. Let's say you want to check something if it is valid, if it is true or false. There's what we call boolean. Okay, that's if it's a true or false. So you want to do something and say that if it is true or if this number is an even number, display this thing. So you are returning a last value that you will use to determine what you want to do. Most time that is in having a return in a function. Generally, that is the primary purpose. When you return it, you have a reason for returning it. You want to use the return value to determine what happens to other stuff. But we are not going far into that now. Now, let's say when you say return this number, what it means is that if you come and still call and you invoke greater than and you pass your argument, maybe we say 5. What happened in this case? It will return 5. Usually returns one value. Okay, it will do everything. It can perform millions of tasks in that function, but the final thing it returns must be a value. Generally, take note of that. Okay, now when we say return and we come to our stuff and refresh, what happened? Good. Why do we have it that way? The value is returned already. Trust me, the value is returned already, but you now need to like console log it or something. You remember? You remember? Once you have your return, it once you call it, now if you add how do we call it? How have we been calling it? Console log. Sorry, echo is PHP. I'm coming back to PHP. Console log. You have your double wherever here. Okay. So now once you come, you know what we are doing before, we are doing the console log directly, but now we have a return and we console log it. You can see it as what? As 5. Okay, you can see it as what? As 5. Now look at something. We can say again inside this plate, let's say if, let's just add a simple condition to it. Let's say number if the number is greater than what? 10. If the number is greater than 10, return, we can say return true. Please try and understand. Or I can say, okay, I can change it to be anything that maybe the number is greater than 10 or less than 10. Let me start by that first. But let's use true. Okay, if the number is greater than 10, return what? True. Take note, this is beginning of the function. Now, whenever you have your if, this is the function. Whenever you have your if, you know you must have this your curly bracket like the return true. Okay? Return true. That means let's say now you are determining you want to check a pass mark, that if it is greater than maybe pass, when we say a pass, it's 70 and above. Let's say 70. Okay? Let's say constant base function number greater than, constant greater than its function. Take this parameter. We say if number is greater than 70, return true. Else, you should do what? Let me just add it manually, because once it's not true, it's false, of course. But let's just say, let's still add it manually. Return false. Okay? Return false. But in this case, you really don't need the else. You really don't need it because, of course, definitely if it's not true, then it is false. Okay? But let's leave it. I'll remove it in a jiffy. So now, want to see console log greater than 5. Let's see. No, we have 5 here already. Let's use it. Let's use it. So once we come here and you will refresh it, what do we have? We have false. Okay, we have false. But any number that comes into this place that it's greater than 70, if we call it here, maybe we have 75 here, and we come and refresh, we have what? True. But take note, this true and false, these are boolean. The type of data here are boolean. You know what a boolean is, a true or false. Okay, so now ideally, let's remove this else. Let's remove this else. Once we have 5 here, it will not tell you it's false. Okay, it will not tell you it's false. It will be undefined. It's undefined. But you want to use this you want to use this, what it's returned here, right? You want to use what it's returned here as a condition. Okay, so in this case, you can now say if, listen to something here. Now you can now say if, look at the way I want to use this thing, if greater than, if greater than console log, if greater than console log what you passed. Okay, if greater than console do what, else console log you failed. This is the way I used it. I just use if directly on the function. Why can I use if directly? Because I already know that what this function is returning is either returning true or undefined, but I only need it to be true. Okay, so what I'm saying is that because the final thing that is being returned here is true, that means I'm saying if true, okay, else it should whatever. But this time around, you are passing the parameter into this place. That is the argument this time around. Okay, now let's say we pass, it's not a string, it's a number. It's a number. Let's say we pass 40 here and we save it. What do we expect to see? Once we come and refresh, what do we expect to see? You failed. Now that is the power of return. Okay, we use return to check, to assign a condition to what we need to do. But if it were to be like maybe 80, if we should put 80 here and we save and we come and refresh here, you see you passed. Is that clear? Is that clear? All right, now I want to take this a little bit a step forward again. I want to change this. I will not do anything. First of all, we started by this thing. This was where we started from. If we don't want to use a named function, we could have done it this way. If we don't want to use a name function, we could have done it this way and bring the name here. Function. We give it a name, right? This is still the same thing. This would have still worked. It's still the same thing we've done. So if we should come and refresh, it's still the same thing. Nothing will break you past. Okay? But like I said, most standardly, let me control Z. Let's use it as what? A named function. But this time around, I'm going to remove it from a named function. I'm going to turn it on to an arrow function. Using an arrow function, all we just need to do was to, let me comment this out. Okay, all I've just done, I've just commented it out. So now let's say constant greeting. We usually have it this way. Okay, this is what? This is arrow function. This is what? Arrow function. This is arrow function. You don't need to write the name function again into it. Is that clear? You don't need to do what? You don't need to write the name function into it. So if we say constant greeting, and inside the constant greeting we say console log, and please, going forward, I want us to start using our arrow function. Okay, now let me explain something to you. When I started learning coding far back then, especially when I started back in the days when I started coming into vanilla JavaScript, I used to hate this name function. I used to hate it. I was like, it's making, why are we getting it so complicated? We already know. But see, let me tell you something. There are some framework. Once you start using framework like React, some React Native, all those Angular, whatever, most of the things you see there are named functions. What did I say? Most of the things you see there are named functions. So what I want to teach is that we are going to use named function today, but we'll end at named function. In our next class, I'm going to teach you what we call the ternary. Ternary. Instead of you doing if so is greater than this, there's a shorter way, like a shorter way of doing it, that you use your question mark in it. These things you must understand them. Like it's not negotiable, because if you must proceed away from vanilla JavaScript, take note, what we have been doing right now is called what? Vanilla JavaScript. If we must proceed from here into a more standard way of coding, international standard, you must understand ternary, you must understand your arrow function, then you must understand your callback functions. Okay? All right. Now, if we say constant greeting, this is an arrow function. Now, look at the way we define it. Constant greeting is equal to this less than greater than equal to this greater than whatever, and you call it braces. Now, when we say constant greeting, we can say console log maybe good day. Okay? We can say console log good day. So what it means is that to call this, all you just need to do is do what you call your what? Greeting, but you must still add this to it. Is that clear? So now, once we come again and refresh, what we expect to have is what? Good day. That is using our arrow function. As a matter of fact, we can come everything we have here. Everything we have here. Okay, let me still leave it commented. Let's just move this here. If we want to translate it to this now, this is the parameter comes in here. Okay, are we getting it? The parameter comes in here. Now the greater than, now it translates to this. Okay, then everything inside here, if forever return it, comes into this place. Can you see? We've written this in a more simpler way. So that means whenever we need it called now, we are calling it here and passing the arguments into it. Let's say 50. Let me remove everything here to make it that simple. Look at this carefully. Constant greater than term. Now using arrow function, we pass the parameter into it here in line 14, and we just do it this way. This looks more standard and more beautiful. Is that clear? So now when we come, we are back to the same stuff. Okay, you have to also console log it. You've only called it because it is a return. It's either you console log it or you use it to determine what you want to do. Okay, so we say if this, just like we did before, if this, right, if this, what happen? We say console log. What happened? If the number if it's that means if it is true, we say that means we mean if it's true, it should console log what you passed, right? You what you passed. If this console log you pass, else it should what console log you failed. Okay. So in this case, what do we expect to see as our results? Where? Here? Alright, thank you. Okay? Alright, so here we expect to see what you failed. But if the number were to be greater than 70, let's say if we have 71, if it is 70, it will still show you failed because the condition strictly say it must be greater than 70. If we are saying greater than or equal to, if we are saying greater than or equal to here, that means even if this is 70, it will pass the condition to be true. That means it will be true, and we'll have it this way. You pass. Is that clear? Is that clear? All right. If you want to like our channel, click on the subscribe button and click on the bell notification to keep you updated.